Hey everybody, Canuck here. Time for another little preview of the course designer for PGA Tour 2K21. So in my last video, my kind of big deep dive into the designer, we looked at everything in the course designer. So all the new things, all the old things. I did that video right when I got my preview copy, and I just went through everything. Since then, I've had some time to really build a few test holes, get used to the designer, and I have discovered some things I absolutely love, some assets, some new features that I love, and that I've newly discovered even since I did the video. So I want to show you a few of those things, maybe a few little secrets. Well, I guess you guys will probably figure them out at some point, but it's a little kind of tips and tricks that I've found to kind of get you guys started and, some more kind of cool things. So obviously probably my number one favorite thing, and I outlined this at the beginning of my video, and I will do it again, is the whole squiggly lines or lack thereof. So just a quick reminder, back in 2019, whenever we wanted to add a layer of heavy rough, you had a layer of rough around your fairway, you had this squiggly line that would show up along your rough line. And it was such a pain in the butt. We had to go around and around and around with little tiny brushes to get it just right. But now all you need to do is lay down your heavy rough. You don't need to worry about lining things up. Just lay it over and have that nice, clean line. So we talked about that in the last video. For me, I think that is maybe my number one improvement. Also, to go along this, just looking at these textures now. I mean, these are incredible. Just it gets rid of that whole flatness that we had in 2019 in terms of the textures. The fact that we now have like 31, 32 textures to deal with is a game changer. Kind of from what I've realized, about probably the first, I think, 18 were the old textures, and then from 19 through to about 32 are the newer ones. So there's some, I really like a few of these. Number 20 is a nice one. It's because you get a little bit of brown in there. And I really like 30 if you want a little bit brighter. 31 and 32 are cool for a little bit deeper, darker greens, but they also have a little bit of that brown in there too. So, some of those are definitely some of my favorite textures. Not just with the heavy rough, but also in the fairway and rough as well. So just all these extra different looking textures are just going to give us way more options for looks of our courses. So obviously textures, squiggly lines, really, really, really cool things. One thing that I did not mention in the previous designer video that I found a little bit later after I did it is having to do with the create water. Now, I don't use the create water tool a ton, admittedly. But there was something I did notice that I don't think, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't remember seeing it in the 2019 designer. If we lay down water, let's just say, yeah, there's our water, but it's a mess right now. But if we highlighted it, selected it, oh, hold on. Let's do that again. That's not what I want to show you. Okay, we just lay the water down, or not without even laying it down. You used to have to lay it down, select it, and then adjust the flow rate and the speed. You can actually do that right off the bat. See over on the controls there, if I click my left stick in, my flow rate is now on. I can now alter the direction and the speed right now. So I don't know if you can see it moving there. So, and then I can change the direction too. Now, that was always a pain in the butt to do when I selected the water. And then having to do it, I found it to be kind of a pain. So the fact that you can do it before you even lay it down, I think especially if you want to lay like big, larger creeks and you're doing little bits of water at a time, being able to kind of move those a little bit at a time, I think is going to be really neat for making kind of those realistic flowing little creeks and rivers. So I found that to be a bit of a game changer and something I never did notice in 2019. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but don't think it was there. So that was kind of a cool one that I didn't really mention. Obviously, me as the big planter, I've kind of done a deep dive into the planting assets, and I definitely have some favorites in terms of trees. And I also can definitely see some maybe looks and trees that I think probably at the beginning, and we're going to see a lot of it with creative courses. We're going to see these trees come up a lot. I just have a feeling. And we're going to see maybe some certain themes come up a lot too. So I've kind of what I've done is kind of highlighted a few. I'm just going to go into my tree menu. I've actually already placed a few trees on my plot. Kind of a quicker way to get to this planting. I'll show you how to do that once we get to our course design 101 video. But a few kind of ones that for me have stuck out as my favorite. Kind of, I really like this bush here. Again, for maybe a little bit more ornamental planting. This new crepe myrtle. Is it crepe? I don't know what it is, but it's got that little bit of pink in there. I really like that. I can see that being a versatile tree. The cypress trees are really nice. You get some nice varieties here. So you get kind of some more thicker ones and a few taller ones with these little moss things hanging off of them. These are really cool. So again, kind of the theme that I think we're going to see a lot is going to be maybe almost like swampland or like a California coastal theme. These cypress trees are really, really good for that. So I can see these being used a lot. These are just a few of the cypress. There's even more. This elm tree is really cool. I don't remember this one in the old one, but some of these elm trees are really neat. This is just a big, almost like statement tree. I'm a big fan of this one. Another one that has caught me by surprise as I'm kind of fixing up a few courses to port into 2K21, and I've got a Swiss course called the Promoti Club. And the one thing I didn't really like about Swiss was all the trees were kind of the spruce and the fir. They all kind of looked the same. There wasn't a lot of variety to them. Well, these fir trees, there's about 5 or 6 of them, and they're like a little bit smaller. You can make them small, you can make them big. I prefer them to be a little bit smaller. But complementing these with some of the larger firs and spruce trees, especially on like a Swiss course, I think these are going to look absolutely incredible. I'm really impressed with kind of what I've seen with my Promoti Club. I think it really even just a few of these trees have added a lot of variety to the planting. So I could definitely see Swiss being used quite a bit, and us being able to create maybe some more like realistic kind of mountainy courses with these fir trees. So big fan of these little guys. So I can see these being used a lot. Junipers, there's a few junipers in here that are different colors, so I kind of really like this orangey kind of color. And there's a lot of kind of different colored trees. This oak, for example, we'll go back to the mesquite in a second, but another thing I could see, maybe not as much with these oak, but kind of the more autumny trees with the huge selection of pine trees, which we're going to go over, as well as a little bit of, color in there. I mean, I've been looking at Pine Valley a lot, which I think can be done really, really easily now that we have an interesting theme, which again, I'm going to show you later. I think it might make like a Pine Valley look a lot easier than it used to be. And I can see a lot of people trying that, including me, maybe right off the bat. So don't copy me. No, you can do whatever you want because I'm showing you this. These mesquite trees are really cool. I can see these being used more in a desert landscape. I'm a big desert steppe fan, so these mesquites are really cool. This may be probably the most overused tree. I'm going to take a guess. This is going to probably be the most overused tree right off the bat. Because it's that curved oak tree, I can see people using this to build like a California coastal course. I've already used it quite extensively in one of my ported courses. I've changed the look around a bit. I'm really digging the look, but I could see this being a little bit overused, but I mean, why not? It's beautiful. I love it. There's a few of these kind of curved oak trees, and then a few just kind of funky ones here too, which I think you look here and, I think a lot of people are going to really try for that California coastal look, which I'm digging. So, big fan. The pine trees, kind of which I talked about earlier, there's like 5 or 6 pages of pine trees. Lots of different colors, lots of different, there's tiny little thin ones. There's really thick, full ones. The looks you're going to be getting with just pine trees in different locales are going to be amazing. So I can't wait to see what people do with these pine trees. The sycamores, there's like a whole page of these dead sycamore trees. I can't wait to see what people do, like maybe putting some of these together to make just some real wild dead sycamore tree thing. I don't know. I don't have the creativity probably to pull it off, but I could see people just going nuts with these sycamore trees. So these are going to be really cool. The actual full-on sycamore trees, this purple one's really neat, but lots of different options here. So I never thought I'd geek out over virtual trees so much, but here we are. I mean, it's the amount we're going to be able to do with these, and I really see kind of like California coastal courses really kind of coming to the forefront for sure. More to the planting. A few plants that I kind of liked. For me, I mean, if you're a little bit more into the decorative stuff, these begonias, these delphiniums, these Hawaiian Thai things for more tropical, whatever these sun patiens are, these are neat for kind of creating little gardens and things. I can see those being used a lot. Love the new cactuses. There's a few different, these are a couple. I just like these little pink buds coming off of them. I'm not a cactus expert, but I'm guessing these are like the flowers that come off the cactus or are about to flower. So I really like that. Some more things that you can add to your step course. There's even a few new grasses that I'm excited about. This one's kind of neat. I think I talked about this in the designer video. I can see this being used extensively kind of around water. I think just even sunk in a bit. It could look kind of cool. People might use it to pull off maybe a fescue-y look. It is pretty green. It'd be cool if we had this in more of a browner look too, a browner color, but who knows? We'll see. This guy's really good. Grass, you kind of got to be careful with grass because it's something that, you want to put in there, but you want it to show, I think. So here's another one where I think you can show this one off. I can see this being used in Linksy courses. I can see it being used in step courses. I can even see it used in a lot of places. Same with this guy too. This might be a bit more of a fescue-y option here. So another cool one. And this one here, I like. These are kind of more bulrushes. So I had this bulrush before. I hated this one from the old TGC. I think this is an upgrade. That's just my opinion. It's a little bit thinner, but definitely feels like more of an upgrade for sure. So that kind of gets me through the planting. Now, another thing that is new to the game is how you can plant. So if you want to plant a large area of a certain tree or rocks or bushes or grass or whatever, you can now spline plant. So for example, if I had this ash tree and I wanted a whole bunch of ash trees, I could hit Y to draw a little spline fill. Now, you need to be careful here. As you can see, as I'm making this area bigger, look at the object meter. It is going up fairly substantially. So, that's not a huge area that I've planted, and that's just 2.1% of trees. So I've got a whole bunch of trees in there. Okay. Now, a couple things that I noticed that were not in the designer video I did before are a couple options in this spline meter. So if you select one of the handles or the points, you select it and go to edit, and there's a few new different things you can do. You can now adjust the fill amount. So you can adjust how many of these trees you want in there. Okay, the higher you go, obviously, the more trees are going in. So you're adding way more to your object meter. Okay, and obviously less is less. Okay. Another cool feature I found that I did not talk about in the previous video is the duplicate spline fill. So what this actually does is if you want to add something else like bushes or grass to the same splined area, so let's say if I add grass, it'll do it for me. So let's say I wanted to add that grass. Now I have a whole bunch of grass laid down. So a much quicker way to plant. I will warn you though, I still don't feel like I'm going to use this a ton, because looking at the object meter there, it eats up a ton of meter. Okay, even knocking the spline point meter down to like 0.1 or 0.2, you're still eating a lot of meter. So I'm going to use this probably for my background planting, but for my planting on my holes, I'm probably still going to be doing it a slower. I wouldn't say slower, but just I'm going to be placing kind of the trees myself, which does take longer, but I think it'll save meter. Okay. One thing I did not know when I did the preview, and I don't think I mentioned it because I don't think I knew it at the time, is of the 3 bars, I was confused about the memory meter in the middle and what you would do to add more of it. Okay, so right now it's at 37.3, which you're wondering, oh, that's pretty high. Okay, so what happens to increase the memory? Each time you add a new object that is not tied to the theme, so for example, this is the boreal theme we're in. So if I add an object that is not tied to the boreal theme, like this ash tree, the memory meter will go up slightly. Okay, I find with the trees, it's anywhere from about 0.1 to 0.5%. Okay, so this kind of prevents people from adding like every single possible tree in the game. Good news, that may seem like a bit of a bummer, but good news is once you have that tree down, you can add as many of them as you like. It won't affect the memory meter from what I'm seeing. So good news on that front. Okay, so that's kind of more into planting. Was there anything else I wanted to look at there? No. Okay. So, which kind of brings me to my last point. I think there is going to be an overpowered theme. I don't know, overpowered's not the right word, but I think a theme that's going to get used a lot because it has a real cool feature that none of the other ones have. Okay? Now, for a lot of us, you may remember from TGC 2019 that if you place a tree or you sink a tree, for example, like this ash tree, so if I were to sink it underground, the texture turns kind of a brownish color. Okay, and people were using that to create a real brownish kind of look. So I can create kind of a dirt look. It works pretty well in Boreal. But I think there's one theme where it definitely works and looks the best. And that theme is your Delta theme. So I'm gonna move this over to Delta just to show you. So we switch over to Delta. See how it really creates this just really nice looking sandy look. So I'm instantly thinking courses like Tara ET like can be made really easily, like just sinking a bunch of trees, meshing in some bunkers. Don't steal this idea because I'm planning on maybe doing something like it. But I could see you guys could do whatever you want, probably better than me. But I think the amount of looks that you can pull off just by sinking some trees and just adding stuff to this Delta theme, especially on a coastal look, is going to be awesome. So I really see this Delta theme being used quite a bit. Okay. Last thing I want to talk a little bit about is the lighting. And when at first glance, I didn't really notice too much had changed about the lighting. But the more I've done some test holes and things like that, the more I think the lighting is a lot better. I used to love, putting all my holes, as many holes as I could into the sun to take advantage of that kind of sexy looking lighting. But the holes going away from the sun never really looked that great. For me, you may argue it, but I feel like the holes going away from the sun look better. They still don't look amazing, but they look better. Okay. And I'm also finding you can do some cool things with the clouds. I really find like the skyboxes look really neat. You add some more clouds and change a whole bunch of different things with kind of the scale, the definition, things like that. You can get some really neat looks. So if I added maybe a little bit more definition to the clouds and make them a little bit lower, it can create some really neat skyboxes. A little bit harder for me to see there, but I've got a real cool one on one of my ported courses that I hope you guys will notice, but it's pretty neat. And maybe a really funky thing that I've noticed, I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, but you can really create like a stormy look So it has to do with the kind of the fog and the haze. So if I really crank up the fog, see my fog ceiling going down, it's kind of creating a bit more of a stormy look. And then if I even up the haze a little more, it makes it a little bit darker. You can really kind of create almost like a storm, almost looks like a rainstorm is moving in. You can even turn the rain on, and we got a rainbow. I mean, that's real cool. So, you want your rainbows, there you go. Love it. It's like turning a rainbow on and off. Okay? And even if you put the haze all the way up to 1, play some night golf. There you go. I mean, sort of, I guess. It's a little bit of, I don't know what this is, but I could see people doing some wild things here. So, some interesting lighting tricks and lighting things that people can play around with that, again, I think are really going to add some variety to the designer. So anyway, those are a few of my favorite things. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. I can't wait to see what you guys build from this. And again, Course Design 101 videos should be coming out shortly after launch. I can't wait to share those with you. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you for more content coming up here on the 21st.